I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Money Matters Top Tips for Success, where each and every day I bring on new business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and have them share their top tips for success with you. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres to keep up with all my book releases, book schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, moneymatterstoptips.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. It's a reunion 2020 episode where I invite back guests that did so well in the first episode, I wanted to talk to them again. So today I have on the line Joshua Konowe, who is founder and strategist over at Konowe Associates. Josh, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back.
So I'm excited to get into into bandwidth goals and what that means for you, and we're going to go a little bit further. I know the audience is already saying bandwidth goals. Have I heard of this? So we're going to get into that, but I don't want to assume that everybody listening to this heard your first episode. So first off, let's just start with what you're doing as founder and head strategist over at Konowe Associates. So tell us a little bit more about the business, please.
Sure, no problem. So right now, we're a small group of strategists who are helping companies with primarily three pieces of the puzzle, and that's for earlier stage businesses and medium stage companies, and on occasion larger ones. But the larger ones usually just falls into a business unit with product architecture help. So acting as a product manager for software, and in one case a hardware company. Go-to-market strategy for marketing a new product or service, and how that product market fits together, right? Are they, they're kind of designing what they need to do and what people are really asking for, because sometimes entrepreneurs have a desire and the world has a different one. So we help kind of get those goals aligned. And then inevitably, both of those pieces of the puzzle also usually line up towards some distinct help with capital raising, and helping companies, retrofit what they have as an opportunity so that investors understand, why they're different, why they're amazing, and why they need money now.
And so what are the, we're going to get into a couple other things, but what are the right type of or niches that you like working with in terms of types of clients, just so that people listening have an idea?
Yeah, sure. We spend a lot of time in software and mobile security in particular, just because we're located in Washington, D.C., so that's a discipline that all of us have, or many of us, I should say, whether we want it or not, right? This is the cyber capital of the world. And then on the flip side, as far as other verticals that we see and that we've been working with, I mean, we've worked with companies in the wine space. We've worked with companies, entering new domains like cannabis and hemp, which is now becoming like everybody's favorite new type of business want to run or operate. But again, most of our discipline is in the software and hardware space for B2B SaaS businesses. On occasion, some larger B2C consumer opportunities, and then B2B2C, which are kind of the tweener in between both of those categories.
Mm. Let's switch it up a bit, Josh. I want to get into your concept of bandwidth goals. First off, let's define that, please.
Yeah. So, part of this is as a consultant and consultative services company for other businesses. Very often times we see them wanting to achieve, a specific goal or a specific set of goals, and we do the best we can to kind of help them and architect that achievement of those goals. And I don't know, more than 90% of the time we help them achieve that, and we get calls back to do more work, which is great. But part of the problem in doing that, both from an estimating standpoint, is usually we have to go in and kind of give them a level set of, right, your goal is this, but this is what the world looks like. And this is actually maybe a more realistic, attainable goal for you. And that doesn't mean always backing away from a very hard or challenging opportunity or setting a high bar. It just means inevitably they've kind of guessed wrong, right, to some extent. Like where they put the pin on the map as their achievable goal and what they think success or execution should look like at the end may or may not be right. it may be driven by other forces, investors, competitors, internal conversations, whatever the desires are of the entrepreneur. So I say all of that to say what we've inevitably shifted to is a way to talk to companies about having a bandwidth of success, right? The top, the bottom, the middle, and some likely outcome that's in between. And that really, it's not about them or not that their company's great or amazing. It's just that there are larger macro influences that are going to be probably changing and shifting on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And so it's probably a lot easier to manage your team and manage the expectations and, of course, manage success when you have a bandwidth rather than a specific dot on the map. And if you don't hit it, then, the world ends, right?
Why do you think organizations at times, because, there's people listening right now and they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. That sounds good. But that doesn't apply to us. So why do you think sometimes, right? Why do you think businesses,
never me.
Exactly, and not us either over here, by the way, at Money Matters Top Tips, just so you know, Jeff.
Sure.
So why do you think sometimes businesses are kind of stuck in that old pattern? Is it a lack of knowledge thing? Is that because what you say it right now, it just makes sense. It's pretty obvious. But why do you think businesses are stuck in that old pattern and kind of continually missing that mark with that old method?
Sure. So I think the paradigm is, in a lot of cases, whether it's a company that has a board or doesn't have a board or has a set of advisors or doesn't have a set of advisors, it's sort of irrelevant, right? Those are just titles for a group of people who are kind of outlaying what they think success is supposed to be. And then they give that information to the people who are actually doing the tactical work on the ground. And of course, when they get it, there's always a disconnect with reality because the person driving the goals and the aspirations for what success is supposed to look like are not actually in the trenches, actually doing the work 9 times out of 10. And it's created businesses that have tried to then map that better, where they think like, oh, let's run a flat office, or let's run an open office environment where everybody, sits in the same room, and everybody's now discovering that actually isn't more productive. And they're trying to make it so that they can map direct goals with direct outcomes, but nothing in life in any form, whether it's raising a family, getting an education, planning your life, usually ever works out that way. And that's why we have all of this, legalese and paperwork along with our lives as backup for when things go wrong. We just don't seem to do that in business because we want attainable goals that we understand. It's easier for humans to kind of get behind, okay, great, we're going to double our sales next year, right? Well, how are you going to do that? How do you know that that's actually going to happen? So it's kind of like being a futurist for your business and making these maybe not necessarily attainable goals. And instead of having a bandwidth with which you can work with and live with, right, given, again, extemporaneous things that are out of your control, outcomes that make it a lot easier for you to manage. And I just think it's based on an older principle of how things were done. We're going to build 10 pairs of shoes, and we're going to sell all 10. It doesn't really work that way. Demand has changed on the consumption side. And so it makes it much harder to kind of guess. And again, this is a broad question, and I don't expect you to get it all, but I would like, if you don't mind, just what is one kind of tip, something achievable, something that's low-hanging fruit that any business owner right now listening to this can do to change up their process to operate more in the alignment of bandwidth goals? Sure. I think probably the first thing is to, you don't need to do this across every aspect of your business. Pick an area where you feel like there's experimentation, right? Some flexibility within the opportunity to fail and to get something wrong, right? And to maybe even to allow that to happen, right? Because we learn a lot more when that occurs than we do when we're just having success and everything is going wildly well. And understand, what the attributes were for what went wrong. Or even in your existing lines of business, when you estimate and you feel like you're fairly confident about what the outcomes are going to be, when they don't happen, take vigorous notes as to what occurred along the way that kind of failed or that didn't help you meet those goals. Or if you blew well past them and you were sandbagging and your attainable goals for what you thought were literally like, 100% less than what you ended up with, then what were you missing from an elements perspective to kind of fail in your estimate, even if you, as Silicon Valley likes to say, you failed up in that regard, right? You did better and outperformed on the way up, or you were making mistakes, but it didn't matter. You were growing so quickly. It still is important to identify what kind of happened and to go back and to review it. And when I've had clients, or when we've had clients that took the time to go back and do some self-examination at the end of the year, review it with the board and elsewise, they make decisions a lot differently, and it is helping to create this kind of bandwidth outcome.
That's awesome. So Josh, if somebody's listening to this and they want more information on Konowe Associates or to connect with you and your team, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Sure. I prefer, maybe a slight shift in how I used to do things before, but I prefer social media contact first, just so I have another way to directly connect with a potential opportunity, client. So Twitter, LinkedIn are great. They can watch the TED Talk I did on YouTube, or some of the interviews I've had with my university on Vimeo. Any of those mechanisms are fine. Facebook as well. And then, we would take them through a normal process to get started. But usually getting some social interaction with first tells me a lot more about whether or not we can even help.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Josh, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing over at Konowe Associates. And let's leave those handles. Just to make sure, because people are driving in their car, they're like, okay, connect on Twitter. Let's leave those social media handles for us.
Sure. Okay. So it would be twitter.com/ my first initial last name, J. Konowe. Same thing for LinkedIn, same thing for Facebook. The YouTube video for the TED Talk, if you just put my name, Joshua Konowe, into Google, it'll come up, as well as the Vimeo talk that I did at my alma mater. And I'll be back at my alma mater in March, again, helping the students do the same thing.
Fantastic. Well, hey, Josh, again, appreciate you coming on the show. And to the audience, thank you for tuning in, as always. I really appreciate it. Don't forget, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes store. Share this with your friends, your family. Do all those things that we do to support our podcasters. I really do appreciate it. And, Josh, thank you again.
Thank you so much, Adam, and happy new decade.